Hey, Run Tribe Bike community. Welcome to the 114th episode of Fireside Chat. You will see that we have new artwork. If you've been on Threads or X/Twitter recently, you'll see that I just posted our new cover artwork. So it'll be up here real soon, but it looks really cool. So we're excited about it. But not as excited as our next guest. Our guest is Cheryl Ann Barnes, who Googled running magazine and found Run Try Bike and submitted her How It All Started feature. She's also been featured in Like the Wind magazine, which is a UK publication about running as well. Cheryl is also the CDA run lead for Strong Her Club and a Race Tats ambassador. So we are going to be talking to her about how she got started, her training for triathlon and run club, as well as dealing with the mental health and the grief of her sister, where running is not just a solo activity, but also a community-based activity. Our show here is live, but will also be on our YouTube channel as well as on our website on Friday, and then on podcast version wherever you get your podcast on Wednesday, July 10th, as part of the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and review our shows. So with that, let's bring Cheryl on.
Hi.
Bringing you up here.
Hey, Cheryl, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. It feels like we're old friends since we just spent 15 minutes in the green room.
Yeah.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Right.
So I let the audience know that you Googled running magazines and somehow we came up, which means our SEO is working. So I'm excited about that. But what was the impetus or the catalyst, shall I say, for you to say to yourself, okay, cool, I found running magazines. Now let me submit my story.
Yeah, I really wanted to get my writing out there, but more so I just wanted to share stories about running because I feel like it's not showcased enough. I mean, I didn't know anybody that had any stories out there really. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go out there and do it and maybe they'll respond, maybe not. But yeah, I just think just taking a risk and doing that.
That makes my entrepreneurial heart flutter because the idea of being an entrepreneur is literally taking risks and betting on yourself, which is exactly what you did. For those of you that don't know Cheryl's story, shame on you for not reading it on our website, first of all. But secondly, Cheryl joined a bunch of strangers to run a Ragnar race, 200 miles in Washington, which if it says anything, it says, I'm going to take a risk on myself and let's have fun. So Cheryl, how did it come about that you were able to join this team to participate in the Ragnar relay?
Yeah, so I was just putting in, I was captain of Spokane to Sandpoint relay race. So it's from Spokane, Washington to Sandpoint, Idaho. And I needed runners, so I just started putting stuff out on Facebook. Then I had a girl email me and then say, hey, if you want to join my Northwest Passage Ragnar, I will come to your Spokane to Sandpoint. So that's how we met. And then she lives like an hour away from me. Turns out that we grew up in Missouri, about 3 hours away from each other, which is super crazy. So yeah, that's how it came about, just through Facebook.
Are you still in touch with the team that you ran with?
Oh yeah, we're doing a relay. We're doing Mount Rainier in August.
So, so cool.
Yeah.
How cool is this? Look, people, listen to Cheryl's story. She took a risk. She put it out there. She found some people, and now she's got lifelong friends who now they're going on additional adventures with. And isn't that what life is all about? Just going out on adventures and seeing what it brings you. So tell me, what was the funniest thing that transpired during your 200-mile trek with your newfound friends?
Yeah, well, I got lost on one of my legs. So that was really embarrassing. And they sent out a medic for me. So I must have been gone for quite some time. And then they went ahead and had the next runner go. And I came back and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I was way off course. Yeah.
I've never done that before in my life. It said no runner ever. Oh man, that's wild. I can't even imagine what you were thinking and what was going through your mind at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was right on track. And then everybody was like, where are you at? And I'm like, well, my pace isn't that bad. I'm coming. And then they're like, we're over here. And I'm like, I'm getting there. And then I realized there wasn't a lot of other people around. I'm like, maybe I'm off course. And then I saw the medics and they come around in their truck and I'm like, I'm good.
So no panic set in? You were just like, yeah, I'll figure it out?
Yeah, kind of. I was a
So,
little panicked when I got there and met the team, but after like my third leg, I was okay.
okay, but you weren't panicked while you were lost, or were you?
No, because I didn't know I was lost. Yeah, I thought I was right along with everyone else. Yep.
I was gonna say, like, you must have ice in your veins if you're like, yeah, I'll just go join these strangers to run and I won't panic while I'm lost out here in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, well, first off, I got to give you kudos for not panicking in that situation. Secondly, I want to like take a step back and touch up on like something that Jason mentioned, like finding your community with these people in this relay, strangers, somebody you knew 3 hours away, and like now you guys are in touch, and now you're doing a relay together in August. It reminds me of a conversation that we had in the green room, and a conversation we had, when we were chatting yesterday. But real quick before I get to that, we have to ask you the important icebreaker question.
Okay.
This will determine whether I even ask you this question or I hand it over to Jason. So it's very important. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Oh, totally. Yes.
Oh, let's go.
Absolutely.
Let me go find Cheryl and Marie on Instagram and block and report her for spam.
Well, I'll be fair to Jason. Just pineapple, or do you put another topping?
It has to be Canadian bacon and pineapple. It can't just be by itself. That's a little
I
weird.
rest my case. I have this argument all the time. I'm like, you don't actually like pineapple on pizza if you have to add jalapenos or Canadian bacon or whatever else you need to add to it. You really like this combination of flavors, not just pineapple on pizza.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take the 50-50 split on that one. You can stay on the show, Jason. But go. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say
I
something.
was going to say I'll remove the block from Cheryl on Instagram now.
Thank
she
you.
can participate.
It'll just be instead of blocked and reported, it'll just be the reported part. But
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, right.
They'll do their thing.
So one of the things that Jason kind of brought up brought me back to a conversation we had, and it brings me back to the run club that you're a part of. And one of the things you mentioned, and that I totally believe in as well, is how when you get out in endurance sports and you run, it kind of strips you of all the other parts of your identity, and you come together and all these people are on the same wave. So talk about your run club and talk about that experience, and how running kind of like brings that similar experience to you as well.
Yeah, so it's funny how I got started with this. I'm just a lead for the Coeur d'Alene chapter of the club in Idaho, and the founder is Courtney Red, and she's in Spokane, Washington. So she started the Strong Her Run Club, and then she's got different chapters in different neighborhoods in Spokane, and then she asked me to do the Coeur d'Alene one. However, the way we met was through Instagram, through a runner that I had on one of my relay teams. She just connected with me through there. So that was really cool. And, it's an all girls, all ladies run club, which I feel like is not super prevalent around here. So it's super nice to kind of be able to relax in that space as a girl and just know that there's not that judgment, not that guys are super judgmental, but you're on a different pace compared to guys. And so it's super inclusive, all paces welcome. And it's been a really, really fun ride so far. I've only been doing it for almost 2 months. So it's been really rewarding.
What do you find is, have you, one of the things that we talked about with these run clubs, one besides inclusivity, because you will see in full transparency clubs that say all paces welcome and all people welcome, and it's like a 7-minute mile for everybody.
Right.
But two, like, what do you see in terms of like vulnerability when you strip all the other components raw and you all are together in this space?
Yeah, I think a lot of helping each other and supporting each other and encouragement. And if somebody's like hurt or they can't run that day or they can run a little bit and then not as much, it's not that big of a deal. And everybody's like, if you need to take time for you and work on your healing or whatever it is, then you can do that. But you don't have to be outed from the club. And so now it's like I have all these people supporting me, even though I don't, the Spokane club, I'm not there all the time, but they are super encouraging of what I'm doing, the stuff I have going on. They're always inviting me over there. I'm always inviting them here. We had a big kickoff party about a week and a half ago, and that was a really good success. So, I think it's what I'm finding is that making these connections through running is really just such a bonding experience.
So how does the connections through running help you outside of running? Because I'm always interested in how we can take the lessons that we learn through running. Like, in other words, I can do hard things, right? This 5 mile run I'm about to do, I don't feel good. I don't like it. It's too hot, whatever excuses are out there. And we go and we do it and we have this sense of accomplishment. How do you, through being a run lead, take the things that you're working with the athletes there and then apply it to your life outside of running?
Yeah, I think there's a sense of confidence in getting people together. And then it just has ignited my passion for community and bringing people together. And like, I like to get people together and just kind of sit back and watch them mingle and be like, okay, I did that. I got these people together. I don't necessarily have to be in all of the conversations, but just knowing that these people are together because I went out there and I'm like, hey, let's just all get together and do this. And it's fun. And that's really rewarding. So I think in my life outside of running, it's given me more confidence and just talking to people and being okay with that and being open. I think a lot of runners are like that once you kind of break their shell a little bit. And then I'm like peeling all these layers of people and I'm like, wow, you're like super interesting and cool. And that's really awesome.
But it takes a lot of confidence to just Google running magazines because you want to submit a story. Let's not downplay some of the confidence you had to have had before this too, right?
Well, I think it was maybe less of that and just not being as afraid of rejection.
Okay.
And just saying, you know what, if they say nothing, it's whatever. Something else will come along, maybe not. I'm just going to keep writing, keep running, and hopefully something will get picked up. Luckily, you guys were gracious enough to take my story. But yeah, I think it was just that mindset of I don't need to be so afraid of rejection that I'm not going to do something.
Yeah, and I will tell you this, and I told you this in the green room, like 9 times out of 10, we are reaching out to people. Hey, would you like to be interviewed for our How It All Started feature?
Yeah.
And so when the email comes across my desk and it's like, you have a submission for a How It All Started story, I was like, all right, yeah. And then it was well written. It was an excellent story on top of it all. There was, I don't think I edited your story at all. If I did, maybe it was to put headers in there, but to break up the story. But other than that, I think I just copy pasted it and dropped it in. It was so well done. Did submitting your story to us also give you a boost of confidence to submit your story to Simon and Like the Wind as well?
So I did it around the same time,
Okay.
actually. And then I didn't hear from them for like 3 months. And I was like, okay, they're not interested at all. And then they reached out and I was like, oh my gosh, no way. And then they wanted me to kind of elaborate a little bit more on relationships and, for their women's issue and talking about friendships between women. And so I got to elaborate even more, which was really great. And I think too, with the confidence level, I started my own website. And then I was just like, I'm just going to be putting my work on here. If people see it, great. If they don't, whatever. And so I was like, okay, it's already on here. People are viewing the page. I don't know if they're reading it, but they're clicking the link. So yeah. And I'm like, they already have like all these great stories at your magazine. So I was like, well, maybe I can fit into that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I do want to touch up on the website because you have the articles and topics that you talk about in running and endurance sports, but you are very much an advocate for being in the outdoors and the power that it has to like uh, to like help you overcome struggles in life, such as mental health and alcoholism. And for you personally had an experience last year, and running helped you put a perspective on that. So, talk about that experience and how running kind of helped you through that.
Yeah, so my sister passed in last year, last May, and that was really hard on our family. She was the oldest, I'm the youngest. It was suicide, unfortunately, and it was just a big shock. And I think for me, it really rocked me. And I had always done like 5Ks and 10Ks, and then I did the relays, but anything more than that, I wasn't really into. And then I realized how much running was able to make me less stressed and kind of get me in a different zone and give me some perspective on life. So then I started getting into half marathons, and I did my first half marathon in her honor last October. And then I did my first marathon this past May, and I was like, okay, this whole time I thought that this was so scary, and it's really not. I'm like freaking out. And, it was cool too because that the death of my sister was such a catalyst for I'm going to live life. Like I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to do whatever I can. And then also work on my mental health and put what I'm doing into perspective. Like, is alcohol a good thing in my life? Is this something that I should be done with? And when you have something like running or swimming or biking, you have that kind of excuse to be like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore because I have to get up at 5 a.m. or I have a race coming up. And it's not only a good excuse to other people, but then you're not feeling as bad and you can really be totally on.
You bring up a really good point about I'm going to live life. We have something happen, and we say to ourselves, "I'm going to live life." I'd love to get your thoughts on why we don't live life before a tragedy happens, because we know tragedy happens, right? We can open up social media. I'm old school, so you can read a newspaper and see that tragedy is happening on a daily basis. Is it because it doesn't impact us directly? Do you think that we don't think about, I'm going to go live life until it actually does happen to us?
Yeah, I think at least for me, I was kind of in a shell. And when I moved from Missouri to Idaho over 3 years ago, I was still had a lot of anxiety, but I was trying to put myself out there. But it wasn't really until, yeah, the death of my sister that I was like, okay, this is not okay for me to just sit here and be comfortable not putting myself out there because I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So, yeah, I think that we're stuck in this comfortability and it's hard to get ourselves out of that. And it was like that for me with running. I'm like, a marathon, I'm not doing that. Who's doing that? Like, no. And then I did it, and then I'm like, okay, now it's a triathlon. Now I want to do that. So, yeah, I think breaking out of that, we're all in this like kind of protected shell of comfort all the time. We're not really put in these crappy positions every day. We're not on survival mode, most of us, all the time. So,
To answer your question about who does that, if you ask any marathoner, they'll tell you less than 1% of the population is running.
right. Yeah.
So speaking of triathlons, this is a fantastic segue into that, I guess. What are you training for, and what are your hopes and goals in the sport of triathlon?
Yeah, some people on my relay team kind of inspired me to do more, like keep doing more. And so I was like, well, the swimming, I don't know. And so I got a swim coach. So I've been doing that. I have a Peloton, but that's not the same as cycling outside. So I am working on getting a bike and doing that. So I'm hoping to do the Ironman in Coeur d'Alene next June, which is a huge feat. And so I need the entire year to train. But I was like, I really love Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and it's like a big spot for that Ironman. I'm like,
Huge.
if I can do this Ironman, then I can feel okay if I move out of Coeur d'Alene because I accomplished something really cool that people do here. And it would be like 5 days before my 30th birthday. So I was like, you know what? That's going to be my gift to myself.
That's awesome. They just had the 70.3 out there a couple of weeks ago, didn't they?
Yep. Yeah. Super awesome.
Did you go out there to spectate at all?
I did. It was so busy. It was so cool. That
Yeah.
energy is just really awesome.
So I will tell you this: I've finished 8 Ironman in my lifetime, and I've never done CDA, but I did do a bike ride that is connected to your bike, so it actually makes you feel like you're out there on the hills in CDA, and that's a brutal bike course. So get your bike as soon as you can and start
Yeah.
training on those climbs because the training out there is going to be super helpful for you to take on that bike route.
Well, that's what's so nice about living here. It's like I can just go on this marathon route that we're going to have, or the Ironman. So it's really cool. And there's a great community of people here that do the Ironman that are really encouraging.
Yeah, it's I'm not personally in a sport of triathlon myself, but somebody did make a good point about, and I think this ties back to community as well. Somebody did make a good point on one of our, actually, I think it was our first episode of Beyond the Finish Line, another podcast on the podcast network. It was that person made a point about how helpful it is to have like groups when you're training for a triathlon, especially for like swimming, especially for like biking, all the activities that might seem typically, I think it's those two of the three that seem the most intimidating. So having people to do that with is I think really great. I want to take a step back and ask you because I'm always curious about people's reactions when this happens, when you do this. But what was your reaction like when you hit the register button on that Ironman, or rather, you made that commitment to this is something that I'm going to do?
How I felt?
Yeah.
Super nervous and overwhelmed, but also a sense of like peace that I know I'm like living my true life. Like something is calling me to do this, and I don't have all the answers right now. And it's a year from now, and I know if I commit to the training, I did my marathon training, and I'm like, I can do this other stuff. I have the resources to do it. And so I just kind of laid back into that piece of like, something's calling me for this, and I need to do this for me. And I may not have all the answers right now, but that's okay.
I think your style is very much like mine. It's like hit the register button, I'll figure out the rest of it on the way. And I think that it's always fascinating to me seeing the different styles of like how people commit to these events. I know the planners and people who are like, I've done this distance and I worked this out and I think I'm ready to commit to this. And then there's like I'm just going to send this and figure it out people. So it's always fascinating to see that.
Yeah. And I think after doing the relays and the marathon and stuff, knowing that something is going to go wrong at some point, and that's okay. Or it's not going to go how I planned, but that's all right. And I'll get over that. And that'll just help me be a better athlete.
It's so funny, because I'm thinking to myself, we talked about ice in Cheryl's veins earlier, like this idea, I'm just going to, just register and figure it out. Like, for me, that just would not work. Like, I remember when I registered for my first Ironman, I was beyond nervous and anxiety riddled and stressed and everything else, any other word you can conceive of, that was a negative word, right? And it just took experience. Okay, I made it through my first one. I can register for my second one. Okay, I made it through the second one, so on and so forth. But the anxiety of it all was like, oh no, I'm not doing this. I remember being asked by friends to do a 100-mile, and I was like, not a chance, man. Like, why would I ever do that? And they were like, oh, we're going to do this 50-miler instead. And I was like, okay, I can process a 50-miler. And then wound up, racing 100-milers. So human beings fascinate me, and the way they react to things fascinates me. This idea that you're like, I have resources, I live in the area, why not do this? Like, that's huge. And I'm wondering, has that ever backfired on you? Has there ever been a moment that you can think of where you were like, yeah, I'll just submit my application for this or register for this, and then you got into it and you were like, yeah, this was a bad idea?
Whenever I decided to be captain of Spokane to Sandpoint Relay, I had it all wrong. I did not know how relays worked. I thought I knew from what I read. I had no idea. Had I not done the Northwest Passage Ragnar the week before, I would have completely blundered, because my friend, the one that lives like an hour from me, she looked at all my papers. She's like, this is all wrong. We have to have an emergency meeting. and we have to redo all of this. And that was all last minute. And I'm like telling my team, I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry. I had no idea how this worked. Thank God she like looked over all my stuff and said something. So she kind of helped me a lot with that. And so that time it backfired. But again, I think, knowing that if, I met her for a reason. And then I did that relay the week before for a reason. So, and I would have never known that, going into it.
And then honestly, experience becomes a great teacher, right? So you go into that scenario, you're slightly unprepared, let's say, you have this interaction, and now the next time around, you're like, yeah, I can handle this, I can do it. I remember, like, again, I've run 800 milers and I've always had pace charts and all kinds of stuff. And when I registered for Cocodona in the initial year, like my crew chief, Maria Simone, had a binder for her Tahoe 200 event. And it was like, I'm going to be here at this second and here at this second. And I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, who's going to be able to follow all of this stuff? Just figure it out while we're out there. 5 days of running around the state of Arizona, I was willing to risk it all in a sense. But meanwhile, like doing an Ironman, I was like, what are all the data points? Where are they?
I find that so funny because you are very much the all gas, no brakes person, that you would be the meticulous planner. And I'm very much like the slow and steady, but my plan is I will figure out a plan. And I think the Tahoe 200 I did was probably the most planning I've ever done.
Worked out. Cheryl, are you when you get to the starting line, are you the kind of person who has a strategy in mind already? Or are you like, I'm going for it, and if my fitness, let's say you're racing a marathon, if my fitness gets me to mile 20, cool. But if it gets me all the way to the finish, even better. What is your race strategy mentality?
I get so like nervous at the at the start line. I'm like, oh my gosh. Then I'm like, I have to pee, but it's too late to go pee. I can't do it. And then I'm like last minute, like pulling up the map and I'm like, what's going on? Where are the porta potties? And now I need to know. And I didn't think I needed to. So I get really nervous at first. And then, that energy, like the very beginning of a race, and then everybody kind of starts taking their own pace. Yeah, I love that energy, but it makes me super nervous at first. Then I just settle in and let go of that.
Man, I like it. That nervous energy is the firecracker for me. Like as soon as that gun goes off, I am gone. Like let's just go and we'll figure out the rest of it later. And it's probably why I have DNFs in my history is like, look, I had enough fitness for 20 miles of a 26-mile run. Okay, it happens. Have you experienced any DNFs in your racing history?
No, I haven't. I would like to do an ultra at some point, and I'm sure I'll DNF at some point. But I think another thing I was going to bring up was seeing other people just bring that up. The fact that you were even like, I DNF'd. Like, then I'm like, okay, like if I DNF, it's not the end of the world. And people aren't calling me being like, you didn't finish. What the heck? So when it comes to like anxiety and planning, when I did the relays, my team, when something came up, like we had one guy that had to go to work on an emergency and people were switching stuff around but nobody was freaking out. Everyone was just like, oh, this is what we'll do. I'll take that on. It's totally fine. We're just going to keep cruising. And so I think other people not freaking out helps me not freak out.
I think what you're mentioning there also, that and the topic of DNFs also brings up something really important. It ties back into something you mentioned about like making mistakes and figuring it out along the way. I think that is, for me, it's possibly the biggest lesson I've taken from endurance sports. I've always had a mantra that I carry with me, fail big. And we as a company have a mantra that failure is not terminal. It's the building block to success. So I think that I mean, kudos to you. I think that more people need to dream big and take big risks. Even and those risks are relative, like for me it might be a 200 mile, or for somebody it might be, that risk might be taking a walk down the block. But it's about like pushing your limits and like growing from that. And I just wanted you to kind of talk about like and I actually just wanted to ask you, like, these experiences where you've made these mistakes and you've had these like small little failures along the way because you've taken these leaps, has that applied to other aspects of your life and helped with the growth of your character over the years.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think witnessing other people be vulnerable has opened me up to being vulnerable and being okay with that. And then that just kind of unlocks the door. Like we talked yesterday, that ripple effect of being vulnerable and then somebody else brings something up. And the writing for me, being able to connect with people through that, and then people reaching out and saying, wow, that resonated with me for this reason or that reason. That has made me just think like I keep opening the doors to new things. And if I have an idea in my head, I should just go for it. And then if it flops, it's not the end of the world. But that can be, or if something goes wrong with my car, it's not the end of the world. Whereas before it was like any little thing, I'm like, oh, my day's ruined. And because of running and going through all of that and being able to be vulnerable with people and taking on these challenges, it's kind of like David Goggins with like what does he say? With calcifying your mind or something, callousing your mind. And doing that, like that's the running and the endurance sports has helped me on my journey in life to not, if something bad happens or there's an inconvenience, it's not the end of the world. It's just like we
Yeah.
keep moving on from that.
Yeah, I think we worry so much about other people's perceptions of ourselves that we don't share our vulnerabilities. And the reality is, most people have as many problems as we do as our own individual selves, right? And I was talking to somebody earlier today about how sometimes when we do interviews for our How It All Started features, it's like a deer in the headlights. The people are like, they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. And the way to comfort them in a way is for me to tell them, look, I quit drinking alcohol 10 plus years ago. I had a disordered eating issue that I still have to battle today. I've been divorced twice. I've moved from New York to Dallas to Phoenix to Washington, California. Like I lost my dad at the age of 23. I just lost my mom about 2 months ago. Like I'm 50 years old. Like I've been through some shit. Like but we all have. And I think that once you start realizing that other people have their own set of issues that they're dealing with too, now you can start talking, and all of a sudden you start realizing, okay, I can share this, I can be vulnerable, and it helps us grow. And then kind of be like Cheryl, take a risk. Send in that story. Maybe Run Try Bike picks it up. Send in that story. Maybe Like the Wind picks it up. Ask people, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And before you know it, you're getting a lot of people extending their hands to you to say, hey, I'm willing to help you out. How do you then turn that around, right? Because we don't want to always be takers. How do you turn it around and become a giver outside of being a run lead, which is huge, by the way? What other things are you doing, and helping people with, and how do you help them?
Yeah, I think just trying to be, like you said, like vulnerable in my friendships, like where my other friendships don't revolve around running. And I actually just started doing a thing with one of my friends back home in Missouri where we're doing a devotional like thing every week. And that's like opening up about being religious is not something that I was comfortable with doing before. And then she reached out to me and she's like, do you think you want to do this? And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally want to do this. And I'm more open with people and I want them to know it's like a safe space to like be around me. Yeah. And the run club has really been awesome. And I think that I attribute learning so much like to the people on my team and to my run group because the wealth of knowledge that all of these other people have, it's so amazing. And then they might say, hey, can you help me move? Can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? And I'm like, well, of course, you just help me with this other thing. Or my friend had a baby shower and I'm like, I will do the whole thing because you saved my butt in that relay race. Like whatever you need.
I love it. I love it. And it's amazing how being bonded by these endurance sports and going through adversity and these activities together create these connections. It kind of goes back to the being stripped of all the other things and like being in this space together. Um, I'm so glad you brought up the ripple effect of vulnerability. And I think it came up with the talking about how me and Jason are vulnerable and we get the vulnerability back. But I that that whole phrase just leaves me in awe, because up until yesterday, I had that conversation with you. I hadn't been able to find the words for what that is, but I really think it is the ripple effect of vulnerability. I think it spreads. So talk about the ripple effect of vulnerability and how you've seen it in around you, especially with you yourself being vulnerable, and how it's kind of moved to the people around you and vice versa.
Yeah, the death of my sister, sharing that, I wasn't sure if I wanted to share that at first. And it was almost like I wanted to draw attention to it, but not because of me, more of just like in her honor, and then also mental health awareness, and for other people to be vocal about maybe why they're doing a race. It may be for them, but it may be for another reason. And a lot of people do have their reasons. And I had one lady reach out about how her son had passed, and she had read my article about my sister and when I did the half marathon, and that's kind of why she got into endurance sports. And so that really resonated with me. And then I think when you're on a run and you're with somebody, or you're in a relay race and you're just like waiting for the next leg, and things get brought up, and then people are tired and people are sweaty and nobody smells good. And somebody did something to piss somebody off that nobody's like saying anything. Then you get into these really in-depth, like kind of intimate conversations, because you're in these like physically vulnerable positions, and you see people kind of at their worst at times, like when they get hurt or something bad happens, or there's an emergency, a family emergency, something like that. And being able to just talk about something is so relieving to somebody and it may not be somebody I'm super close to, but just being able to be like, yeah, my sister passed and it was suicide and it was really hard. And then somebody else is like, wow, that, my brother passed from that, or my dad, or whatever. And then you're like, I'm not alone. And I think that's the big thing, is like knowing we're not alone in this world. And I think COVID made everybody so isolated, and people kind of got in their head. I mean, I definitely did. So knowing that we're not alone, and there is somebody that has gone through something, if it's not the exact thing, it's something similar. So yeah, that feeling of breaking out and being able to connect, that is such a big part of why I'm passionate about running now.
And one of the things that I've learned from starting this business and having conversations with athletes like yourself is to reach out to people. So there are people that you see posting consistently, and then all of a sudden they're not posting.
Yeah.
And I've taken it upon myself to just email some people in the last few weeks, months, maybe, because I've seen them posting and then all of a sudden they're not. And I want them to know that they're missed, because in this connected world, air quotes, we tend to be a lot more disconnected than we are connected, right? People aren't engaging in commentary on each other's posts. It's like, if I hit this like button, they must know it was for me, and things are cool. And the reality is, no, not necessarily. Like, reach out to people, send them an email, send them a DM, and hey, I've been thinking about you. Or are you okay? Especially if it's somebody you've seen consistently posting, because we are all going through something. And we don't want people to feel alone in this world, and let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. They may never respond, but they see it and they may think to themselves, okay, I'm not alone. And that's always a super good thing to do. One thing, I know this is a heavy topic, but your community with the Run Club probably helps people with some of these heavy topics. So where is it that you guys meet, and when, and all the good information? So for women that are in the CDA area, they know where they can go to be a part of this Run Club in this community.
Yeah, so we do it on Tuesday evenings. I started doing it at 7:30 when it's starting to not be as hot. But I'm not going to say where, because we're trying to make it like a private thing. So we don't have any creepers, but we're trying to keep it that way. So yeah, you can just DM me or Strong Her Run Club, and then I can give you that location. And I feel like that helps people like feel a little bit safer, that they're
That's
not
awesome.
just like anybody can just come. Of course, everybody can come, but I'm not just going to like put out the location everywhere, but I appreciate
So where can they DM you?
So on my Instagram, so it's Cheryl_Ann_Marie. So you can find me there, or Cheryl Ann Marie Barnes on Facebook. And then Strong Her Run Club is also on Facebook. and Instagram, and you can DM any of us.
Awesome. Cheryl,
And
thank you. Go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna ask for one more plug for Cheryl. I was gonna say, where can they read all the other stories outside of running for your blog? Where can they find your blog?
Yeah, so it's thehumanmountainconnection.com. Just all together, the Human Mountain Connection. They can go there and find my latest articles. Super proud of that. And then I'm also a Race Tats ambassador, so I am going to plug that. You guys need to get some. I need to send some to you. So super fun. Really
Shout out
nice
to
for
Don
everybody to go
Oswald.
places.
Shout out to Don.
Love it.
So I've got, see, this is why these conversations end up going from like 35 minutes to 3 hours. Where does the name for your website, for your blog come from? How did you create this Human Mountain Connection? What does it mean?
Yeah, so when I moved to the mountains, I was like, I'm so drawn to this. I love this. I don't really know why. It's hard to put into words. And then a lot of people I talk to that have moved here as well, they're like, I want to be in the mountains. I want to be in the outdoors. And there's such a pull for that. And I think just being grounded and connected to nature. So I was like, okay, we're all humans and we want to be connected to, the Human Mountain Connection. And so I think putting out there stuff about the outdoors, about running, and just being out in the sunshine, honestly, is such a big part of my life now. And I want other people to get themselves out there too, because I used to be so shy and like anxiety riddled. I did not want to be in the forest. I'm like scary forest stuff. And now I'm like doing night trail runs with my team, and I'm like, whatever. So yeah.
I'm not buying this shy thing for 1 second.
That's what you said about me, Jason.
Yours was true, dude. Like that was true. We'll tell this story until the day this company no longer exists.
Oh my God.
I met Ohm at Coldwater Rumble a number of years ago. Had been exchanging emails with him, and I go to shake his hand, and it was like, you know, the cliche was like a dead fish. It was like a dead fish. I was like, man, this guy comes across a lot more confident in his emails, and this is a terrible handshake. But now here we are a few years later. He's the co-owner in the business. He's had some amazing ideas like this Fireside chat that has, put us on the map a little bit more in terms of followers and audience size. But I will never forget that day, dude. Never.
Oh man. No,
I do want to ask Cheryl another question though, because the way you talked about the Human Mountain Connection, is that one of the reasons why one of your most recent Instagram posts is they asked me why I live in Idaho and here's why I live here?
Yeah, nobody wants, or a lot of people in Idaho are like, don't come here. It sucks, because they don't want everybody moving here. But man, there's something about, I live close to the river and I can just go run at the river. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's snowing, if it's raining, it's awesome out here. Just yesterday, I was out running and then there was a rainbow. It totally poured down rain on me. And then I watched a bald eagle get a fish out of the river and come out. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, some days there's nothing cool, but today was amazing. Like, that's what it's all about.
And that's awesome. That's more proof that being present is paramount to living life, like being present.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I hand it off to you, Jason, for the rapid fire, since we were on a topic of blogs, aside from finding Cheryl on her blog and from her how it all started, you'll be able to see more of Cheryl's articles soon on our website, as she's going to be one of our newest writers, and we're excited to have her on board.
Super excited. And I'm fully expecting the well-written articles that came across with how it all started. So it's going to be phenomenal reading for our audience. Trust me. So Cheryl, are you ready for our rapid fire questions?
I guess not.
She's like, yeah, thanks for the plug on the show. Goodbye. Let's see if we can get her back.
Well, she was having issues earlier, so I think that she'll be back in a minute here.
I have the video up on.
There we go.
I have the video up on my phone and Instagram. I could see my reaction when she drops out.
That was so funny. He's like, "Are you ready for the rapid fire?" You're like, "Nope, I got my plug. I'm out of here." That was
I was
actually
like,
a
what
first.
happened? Okay.
That was a first. We've had some weird things happen on this fireside chat, like 15 minutes before somebody could get on, like actually by an actual fire, and like people moving during the chat. And we've seen all kinds of things. I think that was the first time Jason's like asked if you like ready for the rapid fire, and that person's just left.
And the best part was the timing was perfect. It was like comedic
good.
writing.
That might just have to be the reel for this show. Get
Yeah.
people going, what? Create some drama.
All right, here we go. Oreos. Are you a fan of Oreos?
100%, yes.
So are you an old school, a double stuff, this atrocity called Thins, or this major atrocity called Cakesters?
No, I am old school with the regular ones, and then take the top off and then make the double stuff myself with another cookie.
That's actually the most clever answer I've heard. I can't even be mad at that.
Are you a dipper? Do you dip in the milk, or you
I
just
don't
eat
like milk that much, so no.
Good for you.
You know, buy them or in ice cream. Oh,
Is there a flavor outside of the original that you're like, yeah, I can deal with that one?
the golden ones are great.
How are they any different? Is it taste vanilla-y?
I don't know. It's not as chocolatey, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of licorice?
No.
Good. That's an easy one. Peeps. Are
Oh God,
Peeps?
no. Do you guys like
Best
peeps?
answer ever.
Oh, not a chance. They are an abomination to my taste buds.
They're only good for peep jousting.
Yeah. Do you know what that is, Cheryl?
No.
So we were told that if you put toothpicks in the beaks of the peeps and then put them in the microwave, and as they spin around, like the beaks joust with the toothpicks. I don't know
guy stuff.
No, a woman told us that.
A woman, a dietitian of all people, told us this.
We've had people say, you know what you should do with the peeps? You should let them get stale and then eat them. And my reaction is, so you want me to take garbage, make it worse, and somehow it's going to taste better than garbage?
Oh no.
Now we know how peeps are selling. It's not because people are actually eating them. It's because they're jousting them.
Right. And making doorstops out of them. Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it earwax covered in sugar?
Oh, you know, that's my favorite at Halloween. I get a bowl of it. Yes. I know.
Do you also buy the pumpkin things?
Okay, I don't like the pumpkins as much.
Why? How is it any different?
It's the way it's shaped. I don't know. It's not as good.
This is a great. I love it when people are like, you know what I really love? I love the Reese's Halloween candy. I'm like, you mean the regular peanut butter cup that's in a different shape?
It's fun feeling like you're a kid sometimes. Have you seen the new Reese's medals? It's like a medal.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
I haven't
wait.
tried them though. Have you tried them?
No, but I'm going to now.
Is creamy or crunchy peanut butter or nut butter if you have allergies?
Any of it. Any peanut butter.
That's a good answer.
If I can, that's awesome.
So how do you make a peanut butter jelly sandwich? Do you go peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other, smash? Do you go peanut butter and then jelly on the same side and then smash?
No. It's 2 pieces of like brioche or something.
Oh shit, we're getting fancy.
A big layer of peanut butter on both sides, and then you get the jelly out and put it on both and then put it together. Or you do a little bit of getting on the pan with some butter and you grill it.
Ooh,
that's
is that would you then say if you toasted it, it's not exactly the same as grilling it in a pan? If you toasted the bread first?
No way. You got to have the butter. That's the whole thing. You got to add more fat in there.
Do you like grilled cheese sandwiches?
Oh yeah, totally.
Do you know the best way to make a grilled cheese sandwich?
Let's hear it.
Okay, so you put butter in each corner, and then you put mayonnaise in the middle part.
Oh.
And then when you toast it, when you grill it, it gets super crunchy because the mayonnaise with all the fat in it already just makes it uber crispy and it cannot be beat. And then what you do is, so you grill it on one side, you flip it on the over and grill on the other side. And then before you flip it back again, you put shredded cheese down and then you press it into that so that you get this layer of shredded melted cheese that's crispy on one side, and the best grilled cheese ever. Can't be beat.
Oh, do you grill all 4 sides of the bread? So like 2 on each?
No, I've never done that.
Do that. Grill both sides
Oh,
in some Kerrygold butter. And then
this is a whole new world.
Oh yeah, you want that crunch.
When you make a PB&J on your brioche bread, how do you cut the bread? Do you cut it diagonally to create 2 triangles? Do you cut it rectangly so you have 2 rectangles? Or do you cross hatch so you end up with 4 triangles? Or do you cross so you end up with 4 squares?
You know, if it's me and somebody else, then I always put more peanut butter on mine. So then I do it diagonal, and then I'm like, I'm the triangles and you're the square or the rectangles. Now, if I'm at home, then I like to like do it in like 4 pieces because that's fun. To then you feel like you have more when you.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. I cut it into 4 triangles and then I eat it with my pinky up. So I'm super fancy as I'm eating my peanut butter and jelly tapas.
I love that.
Red velvet cake. Is red velvet a real flavor or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
It's dressed up.
Yes.
I'm not a fan. No.
Yes. People will always say, oh, but the cream cheese frosting. I'm like, go get carrot cake. It's better.
Carrot cake is, oh man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you like raisins in your carrot cake?
I like raisins, the nuts, whatever, coconut, add it all.
Have you ever had pineapple in your carrot cake?
I haven't, but I would totally do that.
Yeah.
Right along with my pineapple pizza and Canadian bacon.
Yes. Thanks for the tie back. It's appreciated.
So I had Jennifer Comfort on our Fiery Embers last week, and she was like, so do you actually like pineapple or do you hate pineapple? And the reality is I love pineapple. I just don't want it on my pizza. Like I will eat, go get me a jar of Dole or slice it fresh. And I love pineapple. I just don't want it on pizza.
It's amazing how many people try to get a rise out of him. Like there will be posts that are not even related to food where somebody would be like, but what about pineapple?
Yeah.
Just to get a rise out of Jason.
It's amazing how this has become a thing where people are sending us pictures of the pizza that they're eating. It's fantastic.
What you need to do is somebody needs to trick you and put the pineapple underneath the cheese. Somehow.
Only if they want to lose a friend.
This guy watched me eat cheeseless saucy bread with pineapple and olives at an aid station in the middle of a 200 with my dirty hands.
It was awful. It was awful.
I feel like when you're desperate, I don't know, it doesn't matter.
He would have been better off just licking the pavement in front of him.
Food hits different on the trail when you're running.
It really does. That got me going again.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, I like cookie dough or sea salt caramel, something like that.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to interrupt you. You are my new favorite person because you pronounced it caramel. Yes. That's how it's supposed to be.
Caramel.
I don't know. People who are wrong.
Totally me. I've been saying caramel my whole life until I found out it was caramel.
Yes. I love it. The other day, or it wasn't the other day, it was a few months ago, there was a guy walking out of the grocery store. He had 1 pint of gelato in one hand and another pint in the other. One was coffee mint gelato and the other one was mint chip gelato. And I just said to him as we were leaving the grocery store, I said, not all heroes wear capes. And he looked at me, he's like, what? And I was like, anybody who goes into the grocery store and walks out with 2 pints of gelato and those flavors and nothing else, you are a superhero, my friend. Somebody at your house is going to be really happy. What's your favorite candy bar?
Ooh, Reese's. Yeah, it's Reese's. Mm-hmm.
Christmas tree, jack-o'-lantern, regular.
Give it all to me. It's bad. And then making s'mores. I just made s'mores with it yesterday. You got to do the Reese's s'mores. More people don't know about that.
No, it sounds fantastic. Pumpkin spice or apple cider?
Oh, both are great. Both.
No, they're not. Got to pick one. You only get to have one variety of food for the rest of your life. Are you going all savory or all sweet?
All savory. Yeah. My sweet phase has faded. I used to be like really big into sweets, and then endurance sports, I'm like, get that away from me. Give me the salt. Like I need a salt shaker with me everywhere.
There's nothing that hits better than having crunchy potato chips in the middle of a race. Like it just hits so good.
Yes.
Chocolate chip cookie or oatmeal cookie?
Oatmeal raisin.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pop-Tarts, frosted or unfrosted?
Frosted. Who's doing unfrosted?
Look, they're selling them. So the same people that are buying candy corn, right?
It cracks me up. It feels like the last 5 people who have said frosted has always ended with who does unfrosted, and I love it.
I don't know how that's popular.
If you're going to get soft serve ice cream, do you get chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla, but I don't feel like soft serve is real. If you're gonna do it, like do the real stuff.
Give me the pint and a spoon. I don't need a bowl. Last
I used
one.
to work at Dairy Queen, and I'm like, is it real? I don't know.
A lot of air.
Yeah.
Last one. A tray of brownies comes out of the oven. Are you reaching for the edge or the center gooey piece?
The center. Mm-hmm.
Are you a person who puts nuts on the top of their brownie?
I want like a whole thing of caramel and the nuts and all the stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What about ice cream?
Totally.
Are you a coffee fan?
Yes.
Okay, so I've given you the recipe for the best grilled cheese. So I'm going to give you the recipe for the best way to enjoy a brownie and ice cream. Put the brownie in the bottom of a mug. Put a scoop of coffee ice cream on top of that. And as you're eating it, it tastes like a mocha. And then basically as the ice cream melts, you end up with essentially a mocha affogato when it's all said and done. And Ohm likes the answer because he just flashed his light. Like, that's a really good one.
I had to flash my blinkers for that one.
Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. It was a blast. I cannot wait to have your writing on our website so that our audience can read how good you are at telling a story. And for those of you who are interested in Cheryl's story, this show will be on our website on Friday, which will be July 5th. It'll be on our YouTube channel as well. And then on July 10th, it'll be on podcast form on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube Music. But go to runtrimag.com, search for Cheryl. You'll see her story about how she joined a bunch of strangers to complete a 200-mile Ragnar relay. Cheryl, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your evening. I think Run Club is today, so hopefully you have a good time with your Run Club, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks. So honored to be here. Thank you.